Good morning, everyone. This is November 10th, 2016, and this is Mike Pelletier, retired lawyer, author, and motorcyclist living in East Tennessee. And this is the another edition of The Unvarnished Truth. And today I would just like to offer my reflections on the presidential election held 2 days ago here in the United States. Well, I voted for Trump, and so I'm very pleased with the outcome of the election. But I just want to reflect on some random aspects of the election. I think the first thing is that frankly, I was as shocked as anyone that Trump won the election. He is certainly the most controversial candidate for president that in my lifetime, without a doubt. And I think it proves basically something that I said at the outset of the electoral process a year and a half ago, when there were 17 Republican candidates, and that is that Hillary can lose to anyone. She lost to a neophyte politician, Barack Obama, community organizer, underemployed, unemployed lawyer in 2008, and that was a bit of a shocker. I guess she stood aside. It made sense that she would stand aside for Al Gore in 2000 because he was her husband's vice president. But, you know, I don't recall exactly why she stood aside for John Kerry in 2004. She lost to Obama in 2008. Obviously didn't run in 2012 when Obama sought re-election, and almost lost to Bernie Sanders, or, you know, came within an eyelash of losing to Bernie Sanders. Basically had to cheat, with undue influence with the Democratic National Committee, getting Debbie Wasserman Schultz fired and Donna Brazile elevated to the DNC chairman, and now Brazile is under fire for feeding questions to Hillary at the debates with Bernie Sanders. So, I mean, she had to cheat to win against Bernie, who's a communist, and an ill-conceived communist. He holds himself out as a socialist, but doesn't say whether he's in favor of government ownership of private industry, which is ultimately what socialism is about, and is the ultimate fallacy of socialism, because you take away the profit motive, you take away private ownership of private enterprise, and you have nothing. Just like the Soviet Union. Soviet reunion now just collapses of its own weight. So Hillary can lose to anyone, and she lost to Donald Trump, the most controversial candidate. You know, and I think there are positives to be said about Trump, but I'm not going to, go into that. I mean, I do think he tapped into something, a Brexit-like quality in this country that that no one else saw. The second thing I would say is that this is a complete repudiation of Barack Obama and his progressive policies. Nobody cares about climate change. Nobody cares about the Iran deal. Nobody cares about Obamacare. They're all going to be undone in a Trump presidency. This is a complete and utter repudiation of Barack Obama's progressive policies. We now have a Republican president, Republican Senate, Republican House. And Republicans are going to have their way for at least 2 years. And we'll see what they can accomplish, as Barack Obama tried to accomplish in the 2 years he had a Democrat government from 2008 to 2010. The third thing I would say is that this is a triumph and perhaps the last hurrah for white voters. The vote among evangelicals was 81-16 for Trump, which is amazing when you consider he may be the most, I'm tempted to say immoral, but I'll just say amoral man ever to run for public office. I mean, his that leaked tape recording of him on the bus with one of the Bush cousins is just astonishing, astonishingly bad taste. Divorced 3 times, or I guess divorced twice, married 3 times, and a reputation for being a very aggressive, kind of nut-cutting businessman. It was just amazing. But he ran 81-16 among evangelicals, who are largely white, largely rural voters. And I'm telling you, in my motorcycle travels through, obviously I ride through rural America because urban America is not pretty. Rural America is beautiful, and that's where I ride. I saw 95%, 99% Trump signs. That's all I saw, really. I mean, I would see once in a blue moon, I would see a Hillary sign. This was a triumph, and you look at the Electoral College map, it really is shocking. All of the Clinton support is the Northeast and the West Coast, and the whole center of the country is Trump country, Republican country. So that's the third point. This was a triumph of white America, and perhaps the last one, over brown and black America. And I must say that I don't think blacks turned out in large numbers for Hillary. Perhaps because I don't know that blacks are necessarily liberal. I think on many social issues they're rather conservative. But be that as it may, this was a triumph of white rural America over black and brown urban America. The fourth comment I would have, I found Trump's victory speech and Hillary's both very gracious, and it was nice to see them, lower the temperature, and Obama's too. Everyone's making an effort to lower the temperature. But I found Trump's victory speech a little peculiar. What he talked about, with all the conservative policies that he espoused, building a wall, repudiating our trade agreements, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, what he talked about was some kind of works progress administration, rebuilding our infrastructure, using unemployed American workers, kind of a works progress administration, the hallmark of FDR's New Deal, and making nice with foreign countries. That he did say that treat us nicely, we'll be good to them if they're good to us, that kind of thing. But I just found that, peculiar. I don't know how we go about making peace with the Soviet reunion, Red China, and Shiite Iran. I just don't know. I see. I think all 3 of those countries will do something dramatic in the waning days of the Obama administration in anticipation of a tougher Trump administration. And I see it right now in Estonia. I see that their government has collapsed, and I'll bet you that Vladimir Putin is behind that. And this is a prelude to an invasion of Estonia by the Soviet reunion. And that's what I call it, the Soviet reunion. The fifth comment I would make is that, and I think it's already starting to happen, although peaceful so far, I suspect that there will be civil unrest and perhaps even assassination attempts against Donald Trump. Civil unrest over his election and assassination attempts against him. I think the security around him should be airtight through and after Election Day. So far, the demonstrations have been peaceful, largely millennials, college students, and the like. But when Black Lives Matter people get involved, and I call it Black Lives Scarcely Matter. Call me racist, but when they get involved, there may be very well be violent civil unrest, looting, burnings, you name it, and I think it should be met with force. We cannot tolerate civil unrest. The sixth point I would make, both Obama and Clinton talked about making nice, reaching out to the other side, being the president for all people. And maybe there's a deal to be made on these Supreme Court justices. What if Trump were to propose to the Democrats, persuade Breyer and Ginsburg to retire, give me two conservative judges for Scalia, Breyer, and Ginsburg, support my two choices, and I'll give you Garland. I think that would be a brilliant stroke. Garland is not, I don't think he is Obama's choice, but it was a very clever choice by Obama. I think Garland is rather centrist and is one of those guys that could surprise you and end up conservative. And even if he ends up liberal, we still get 2 for 1. And I think it's a gesture to the Democrats, which they might appreciate. Now, they might say, nominate Garland and we won't oppose him. And then, Trump, the art of the deal, can negotiate. Well, okay, give me one. Give me Breyer or Ginsburg and Scalia, and I'll give you Garland. So anyway, I think there's a deal to be made there, and I commend Trump to try to make a deal. The last point I'll make is, and this is something that some of the conservative commentators are already talking about. I don't know whether I know Jason Chaffetz wants to investigate Clinton over the email scandal and all that stuff, but I wonder whether, in the interests of peace, we should stand down on all that. I would certainly suggest that President Obama, before he leaves office, give serious consideration to pardoning Hillary Clinton for all crimes arising out of the email or foundation scandals. And maybe that he should even extend to Bill Clinton, Chelsea Clinton, Huma Abedin, Cheryl Mills, and some of the other key players in the foundation email scandal. I don't know, but if Trump can't persuade Congress to stand down, perhaps Obama should consider pardoning those people. My guess is that he will, and I think it might be the wise move. So those are my random thoughts on the election. That's the Unvarnished Truth for today, November 10th, 2016. This is Mike Pelletier signing off.